I've posted this in a few of our threads. Just curious as to everyone's take on it. This is going to be pretty lengthy, so I apologize in advance. I'll preface this by saying that I live in a small town in the Midwest of about 300 people. Basically the middle of nowhere. I can remember my mother telling a story when I was younger that has stuck with me ever since. My father was an over-the-road truck driver, so he wasn't around much. That left my mother to pretty much raise my little brother, little sister, and me on her own. One night she was awoken by a bright light shining through her bedroom window. She said it was as if someone had parked their car and directly turned their bright headlights on, pointing towards her bedroom window. Her first instinct was to get up and check on us kids. She had noticed that the bright light wasn't confined to her bedroom. It was shining through every window in our house. She saw that I was accounted for, as was my little sister, but she couldn't find my little brother, who was about 3 at the time. She's scouring the house and finally sees him in our laundry room, opening the back door that leads to our backyard. And as soon as he opens the door, the brilliant light shines in, and she wakes up. She's accepting that this was all a dream, when her eyes begin to focus on the dark of her bedroom. She sees a small figure on the foot of her bed. As she sits up to see what exactly it is, it scampers off into the darkness of our house. Then she wakes up again. A dream in a dream, she's telling herself. Later that day, she's hanging up laundry and conversing with our neighbor woman, who asks her a question. "Did you guys have a party late last night?" "No," my mother replies. "Why?" Our neighbor goes on to tell her that she and her husband had a disagreement the day before, and she decided to sleep in her son's room. At about 3 a.m., she was awoken by a bright light emanating from our house. Fast forward to a few years ago. I own our old house and have children of my own. Now, to preface this story, I should mention that our house is set overlooking the town's cemetery. One evening after returning home, I'm carrying my youngest son into the house. I thought he was asleep, when all of a sudden he starts wailing and screaming while pointing across the graveyard. "Daddy, get inside. They're coming after us. They're going to take us. The green skeleton men are going to take us." So this freaks me out a bit, and I turn to try and see if there's anything he's actually seeing. I don't see anything, but he continues losing it. Once inside, he's still hysterical, wants me to lock the door and shut the shades. He absolutely refused to let me go out and get the groceries. It was bizarre, to say the least. Later that week, he has another spell. It's about 2 in the morning when I hear him crying and yelling for me. I rush into his room and he's crying, begging me not to let them take me again. I kind of write this off as a nightmare, but I ask him where they are trying to take him, and he replies, "Where the bad Power Rangers are." I proceed to ask him where the bad Power Rangers are, and he replies, "A spaceship." Now, I don't know if it was just the imagination of a 4-year-old, or if it was his mind trying to rationalize an actual traumatizing event, but I can't help but assume the two are connected. But it's the worst feeling in the world, trying to protect your child from a monster that you don't even know may exist. Fast forward again to this week, I started a paranormal and conspiracy podcast earlier this year, where we talk about creepy stuff and have listener call-ins and experiences and such. Well, I got this email this week from the son of our neighbour that saw the light over our house that night. This is what the email said. The incident involving AJ and I went like this. I know it was the early 90s, because I was in my 70 Chevelle, somewhere between St. Mary's Church and where our shop is now. I was driving us home around 9 at night. No other traffic anywhere. Shortly before the highway curves left, the most intense bright white light appeared out of nowhere. It was like a flashlight being held against my eyes. Oddly enough, as blinding as it was, I could make out the outline of what I assumed was a man about my height. First instinct was to jam the brakes. As soon as I did, the light was gone. The car had died, and all lights inside and outside were not functioning. After a few seconds, the lights came on, and the car started again. AJ wouldn't even answer me when I asked him what we hit. No damage, and I couldn't find anything anywhere. I drove to Mum and Dad's, and AJ begged me not to get out of the car. He never mentioned it on the highway, but now insisted I stay in the car. I went in and got Mum and told her everything. She went to talk to AJ, and he told the same story, but refused to exit the car. He told her whatever we have seen was still hiding under the car somewhere. My wife's question was, did this happen around the same time as the lights at your mum's house? His incident took place no more than a mile or so from our house, possibly the same or similar time as to the lights over the house incident. So I can't help but think they're all related, and wonder what about our small town has piqued something's interest so much.